Several months back, the Washington Post did a survey about why you own AR-15s. We'll talk about the results of that survey in just a minute, but first I'll let you know we have a super secret giveaway going on. It's happening right now. It is absolutely free, but it does end really soon. All you gotta do is click the link in the description down below to learn what you could win. And here's a hint, it fits in a holster. Now let's talk about the results of this Washington Post survey. They surveyed a bunch of people and they found out that about 2,104 of them were gun owners, and of that group, 399 owned AR-15s. So if we're doing the math there, that figures out to about 20% of gun owners own an AR-15, or 6% of the American population owns an AR-15. But the interesting thing that came out of this survey is the Washington Post wanted to know why you own an AR-15. So they asked some specific questions of people who owned AR-15s. And you know what? For me, the answers weren't really all that shocking. 65% of the people said that protection was a major reason that they owned an AR-15. 63% said it was just fun to shoot. 60% said that target shooting was a major reason why they owned an AR-15. And 42% of the people said they wanted to own an AR-15 just in case law and order breaks down. Understand that you need a gun that holds multiple rounds if you're dealing with multiple aggressors. And we saw that in 2020 and some of the riots and the largely peaceful protests that were going on, that's not something that, 6 rounds in your handgun or even 15 rounds in your handgun, you're not going to be as effective at protecting yourself, your family, and your property if you don't have effective tools to do that. And the AR-15 is an effective tool to do that. That's why it's been, I think now it's our longest serving military rifle in that current platform, firing that current round with that current magazine capacity. It is an effective tool for defense, and a lot of people realize that, so that's why people buy AR-15s. So only 22% of the people who bought an AR-15 said they bought it because they were worried about future regulations, future restrictions, future confiscations of the gun. So that sort of defeats the discussion points where people say, well, the AR-15 just ballooned in popularity because people were afraid of upcoming laws. That's not the reason people are buying the gun. They're buying the gun because it is an effective tool to defend themselves. And only a very small number of people said they used an AR-15 for hunting. And that's an important distinction to make, because I really want people to stop connecting the Second Amendment with hunting, saying that we should only own guns if we're going to take them hunting. The Founding Fathers didn't just finish a 4-year hunting trip. They finished a war against an aggressive tyrannical power, and they used the most effective weapons of the time to defend themselves. And they wanted to make sure that the people got to keep and bear arms to defend themselves. It is not about hunting, so let's not make it about that. Let's not talk about that. If you're asking what's going on with this survey, we'll talk about this a little bit, about who answered the survey and who AR-15 gun owners are. First of all, not going to be surprised a bit that 81% of the folks who own AR-15s are men. That leaves 19% of them to be women. But when it comes to general gun ownership, that split is about 60-40, 60% men and 40% women. So more men tend to own AR-15s than do women. Now, 48% of AR-15 owners live in the suburbs, and 47% of AR-15 owners live in what they identify as southern states. So you can kind of see that breakdown, and we got some more demographics coming here, and you'll see as this breaks down and why it goes that direction. Now, here's the one that people tend to twist and use and point out that it's a problem. 74% of the people who own AR-15s are white, 11% are Hispanic, and 9% are black. Now, when it comes to just general gun owners, just gun owners in general, 75% of gun owners are white, 9% are Hispanic, and 10% are black. So you'll hear people say that people who own AR-15s are just the suburban white folks, and I guess that bears out here in some of these statistics, but we don't know how these statistics are going to be used by politicians. We'll talk about that in a little bit, maybe when we get near the end of this. So some more demographic information about AR-15 owners. 56%, more than half, make over $100,000 a year. AR-15s can be expensive firearms. They can cost a lot of money, and it kind of makes sense that people with more income have more disposable income and can spend that on a defensive tool. And that's one of the things we talk about all the time, about this disparity in gun ownership, that sometimes the people who need the guns the most, who are living in the most dangerous areas, aren't making a lot of money, and they need effective tools to defend themselves. So there is some sort of disparity in there, and people will talk about this all the time. I'm just presenting these statistics from this Washington Post story. I'm trying not to editorialize too much about this. Yes, I'm pro-gun. That's what I do. But I'm just giving you some of the facts here that people are talking about. So now let's talk about education levels. So in America, 65% of people don't have a college degree and 35% do. Now, when we're talking about the breakdown of people who own AR-15s, 67% of AR-15 owners don't have a college degree and 33% do have a college degree. So it kind of mimics that right along there. It's a breakdown. It's not about education. It's not about differences in class or society or anything like that. That just sort of follows the standard trend here in America. Now, here's the one that really got me going. It's political affiliation, and the majority of AR-15 owners are not Republicans. So stop and think about this for a minute. And it doesn't even break down into a majority, because we have, Republican, Democrat, and independent. 46%, the majority, the largest group, 46% said they were independent. 41% said they were Republican, leaving 10% who call themselves Democrats, and 3% who just chose not to answer that question. But for people to say that it's only Republicans, it's only conservatives who are buying AR-15, that's wrong. This survey bears out that it's people who are independent, who are what we would call free thinkers, the people who have reasonably determined that they need the most effective tool to defend themselves. And they're not siding with one political party or the other all the time. They're making the right choice. They look at all the options and they make the right choice. That's why they call themselves independents. And what they're choosing to do is buy an AR-15. So that is basically the statistical breakdown of this Washington Post survey of why people own AR-15s. Now, there were like 14 different answers, different reasons. A lot of them were very small numbers of reasons why people own the AR-15. The big one was self-defense, and that makes perfect sense to me. So I'm asking you now, why do you own an AR-15 if you do, and if you're willing to share that? And it might just be that because it's our right, or because we want to defend ourselves. That's why the majority of the people own those guns in this country, because we don't want people to take away our freedom. When they take away our guns, all the rest of our freedoms will eventually fall. And you know that to be the case. So it's not the guns that are causing the crime. It is the guns that help protect us from criminals. So answer in the comment section down below. Tell us why you own an AR-15 if you do.